Hi, friend. Welcome back to another episode of Ash to Dusk. I am so happy that you've made it this far into the episodes, or who knows, maybe you skipped right to this one because you're like, I have a fear of flying and I really need to hear what she has to say about this. But either way, I'm so happy that you are here. Just a reminder that if you haven't already liked, shared, or subscribed to the podcast, please do so. You can watch episodes every Sunday on YouTube at Ash to Dusk, or you can see video clips on our TikTok page, or you can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. So please like, share, and subscribe. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. All right, let's talk about the fear of flying. So many of you know this if you have been watching me for years on social media, and that is I have had severe anxiety when it comes to flying. And for as long as I can remember, I have always been fearful of flying. I flew to California when I was, I don't know, a couple of years old, and I do not remember that. But I do remember, like, when we flew to Myrtle Beach, and I'm going to say I was probably 10, I don't know, somewhere around there, 10 or 12. I remember having a panic attack on that flight. Yep, sure did. And we were with my family, and you know, that's like the first experience that I can remember having such fear of flying. And then when my ex-husband and I got married, we flew to Punta Cana. And, you know, that was my first, I think it was like 3-hour flight. I was scared the whole time. I mean, I had chest pains the night of our wedding when we were going to bed because I was so afraid to get on the plane to fly. And so, yeah, my experience with flying was just never great. I never could identify like why I was afraid to fly. I just knew that I wasn't going to fly unless if I really, really had to. I mean, I would drive from Ohio to Florida, and that is about a 16-hour trip if you only stop once or twice. So I did it by myself, actually, with two of my boys. Like, I drove to Florida. We did multiple times as a family. I would drive to Myrtle Beach, and we were just driving all over the place because I'm like, I'm not getting on an airplane. All right, so when I had to start flying for work is when I started going to the doctor to get medication to help me fly. And so I would say the very first thing that had helped me overcome flying, I'm going to be really honest here, and some of you may not agree with this or like it. I used, and sometimes still do, depending, Xanax to help me. Now, my anxiety is so severe, or was so severe, that taking a Xanax pill, like a half a milligram or whatever it is of a Xanax, it just knocked the edge off. So it's not like it would make me sleep or anything. Like, that is just how anxious I would get. And my heart rate would still be about 130 even with Xanax. So this is like how severe my anxiety was. Now, I've been in therapy for a lot of other things for 9 years now. Next month will be 9 years. And one of the things that we have worked on is also the fear of flying. So when I started traveling for work, and when I became a keynote speaker a year and a half ago, or almost a year and a half ago, I was like, how am I going to do this? Like, I have to get on an airplane so that I can fly to places like California, Alabama, Mississippi. Like, I can't just drive all over the place. I'll never, like, I won't be able to do as many keynotes. And it's just, I can't do that. I need to fly. Like, grown professional women fly. I can do that. And so it started definitely with taking medication. And then I'm like, well, I don't want to take medication. So if you heard my episode before about hypertension, I shared a little bit about, like, my body seems to always react to different medicines. I don't really want to take them or become dependent on any of them, especially with like addiction issues in our family with like alcohol. I've always been nervous of that. So I'm like, I don't want to have to take medicine every single time I fly. I really need to get a handle on this. So I learned that you could potentially go to an airport and go on like simulators or these it gives you the experience of flying. Because anytime you have any sort of like either PTSD or just anxiety at the level that I had, one of the only ways to overcome it is to actually doing it. It's exposure therapy over and over and over again. So I do think that having to get on an airplane as often as I have had to for my keynotes and my speaking tour has helped me. But I wanted to share a few tips with you that has helped me be able to get on an airplane. I fell asleep, you guys, on the airplane for the first time just a couple of months ago, which has always been a dream of mine, to be honest. Like, I've been like, I one day want to be able to get on an airplane and just fall asleep and not be so stressed out. So that has happened. We recently flew to Florida. When I say we, like my entire family, so Mike and my 3 boys, and it was their first time flying too. And it was kind of surreal for me because I was sitting there talking to my son who was very anxious about it. I was able to explain all the different things, like, okay, this is what happens now. Like when you hear that dinging as we're taking off, that just lets you know that we're like at 10,000 feet elevation, and that, like all the things I didn't know. So I started following pilots on TikTok, like Pilot Pete. There's a few other ones, and I honestly just can't remember their tags, like their social media handles. But I started following pilots on TikTok, and it's been helpful because they'll explain things to you about like turbulence or what those dinging noises are. I have come to realize that a lot of my phobia around flying is actually feeling confined. Like when they close that door and you can't get off, it's like not being in control. I love to be in control. All of those things, like that's what I've realized that has made me fearful of flying. So one of the things that my therapist has shared with me, aside from like watching videos and just having exposure to it, was try to do something that works a different part of your brain when you're feeling anxious. So I had tried the tapping thing, by the way, and you can look that up, and it's kind of like where you start tapping in different spots on your body in a rhythm that tells your body like everything's okay to calm down. But you guys, I either just wasn't doing it the right way, or I was just so anxious, like it was not working for me. But I was never one to like play games on my phone. But she was like, you need to download a couple of games and start playing those games like during the parts of flying that you least like. So, when they're backing you up onto the tarmac, when you're taking off, any of those things, like start playing the games. So I also struggle with the different sounds and noises of the plane. Sometimes it's just like really loud, or it just heightens my anxiety. So I started listening to music. At first it was meditation music, but then I'm like, no, maybe I'll just try like music that I really love and it's more upbeat. So I started listening to like Beyonce, Morgan Wallen, like other things where I'm like, okay, life is normal. I'm listening to music. It's fine. It's great. So anyways, now when I fly, I definitely, during takeoff, like I definitely have music playing. I might put a podcast on later or watch an episode of something on my tablet once we're up there. But I always start with listening to a song, and there's typically the same songs, but I listen to a song. I have Starburst with me. And when I first started using Starburst, because I also heard that like if you would maybe suck on something that's sour, it helps take away anxiety. Now, again, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I am like willing to try anything. So I would always have like a Starburst in my mouth, which also helps with like your ears from popping and feeling plugged up. And then I would take like the Starburst wrappers and I would just like twirl them and wrap them. And at one point I was like, rolling them so hard that the color from the wrapper was like on my fingers, and it was so embarrassing. And then by the time we landed, I had like, I don't know, 10 or 15 different wrappers. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to be like eating all this Starburst either. Like that's not good. So when I take off now, I actually don't even have to do the Starburst thing anymore. because I'm not fidgeting as badly. Like I don't need that. But I absolutely have my music. I am playing either solitaire or block blast. And that's what I do to get me going. I also don't let any negative thoughts enter my mind anymore. The moment that they start, I instantly just kind of like pretend like they're in a little bubble and I blow them away. And I instantly say, like, this is going to be great. On the other side of this flight is an amazing vacation or a keynote where I get to make an impact. And I don't really have as much anxiety around it anymore. Now, when I went to fly to see my business partner, so I want to kind of share this story. I alluded to it when we did the hypertension video and how I got diagnosed with high blood pressure. And that was because I went to get medication from my doctor to fly. And this was to go see my business partner. So this was, I think, around 2022. And I had Xanax. I took it before my flight. I get on the plane. It's a smaller plane. And we're sitting there and they close the door. They push you back. And we were sitting there. Next thing you know, you could you could feel the engines revving up and the plane was kind of like vibrating a little bit. And the captain came on and he said, "Hey guys, we're going to be delayed for a moment because we're too heavy for takeoff. And we're going to stay here and burn some fuel before we take off." I went into an instant panic attack. Guys, I already had Xanax and I still had a panic attack. And this panic attack was so bad that the flight attendant actually ushered me to the front of the plane in their little like galleyway. She had asked somebody in first class to just move out of their seat for a moment to let me sit down. And when you are having a panic attack, if you've ever had one before, you really know this. It takes over you in a way that like you almost feel shameful when it's over. Like you can't control it in the moment unless if you have been equipped with like coping skills and how to get out of it. It is debilitating. And I was in a full force, full blown panic attack, could not breathe, was very worked up. And that flight attendant was one of the sweetest people I have ever met in my life. She never made me feel sad or ashamed, or she didn't even show frustration with me. She was patient and loving and kind. And she eventually got on the call or on the phone with the captain, and they ended up taxiing us back to the gate to let me off the plane. Now, first of all, can you imagine what people felt on that plane? I mean, they were pissed because this is going into a 4th of July weekend. They were already mad that they were delayed, worried if they're going to miss their next flight. And then here we are. There's this girl on the plane who's having a complete meltdown like a child. And now we got to go let her off. And then when you do that, then they have to go through their whole process and procedures again. And it so happened to be that there was a person on my flight who knew me. I went to school with him and I worked with his mom. So when I went back to work, at that time I was a food service director still, and they were like, how did it go? And I was like, oh, it didn't go. I got off the plane. Like I had a severe panic attack and I didn't make the trip. And, and my friend at work was like, oh my God, you're the girl. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, my son was on that flight. You guys, I was so embarrassed. So here's what I'm here to tell you now. I now fly on airplanes almost monthly. I was on a 5-week speaking tour and I was on an airplane like back to back to back. I flew my family to Florida. I will choose flying any day now over driving 16 hours to Florida. Do I still get a little bit uncomfortable and feel a little bit anxious on the plane? Yes, I do. Are there moments that I will still, I will always have a couple of, Xanax with me just in case. And I only ever use that for flying, by the way, only ever use it for flying. And I'm really trying to get to a point where I never have to use it again. But I keep it with me for a couple of scenarios. One, when they put you on those tiny, tiny planes, like the ones from like Huntsville, Alabama to Charlotte, where it's like 10 rows, one little strip on one side, two on the other, and you can't even stand up in the plane. They don't even provide meal service or beverage service or anything because like the flight's only 20 minutes, but like you're like in this little shoebox. Like, yes, for those instances, I will, if the weather's really bad, it gets very, very turbulent. That's happened a couple of times, like some scary situations. That's when I have it now. But you guys, I fly all the time. I fly all the time. And I heard this before and I say it all the time now. There's freedom on the other side of fear. It's time for you to conquer your fear now. And the same way that you conquer your dreams, which is by action, by taking one step at a time, every single day, no matter how scared you are, you just put action towards that dream and it becomes true. It's the same thing with fear. The more you expose yourself to the very thing that you're afraid of, and the more that you, even when you get scared and you fail and you have that panic attack and you fall down, you need to stand back up and you need to just get right back on the horse. You need to get right back on that plane and you need to fly again. And the more you do that, I promise you it gets better. And let me tell you, the freedom it feels to be able to book a keynote on the other side of the country. Like, I flew to California for a keynote, you guys, this past year. A 5-hour flight almost. Like, it was awesome. It felt so good. I felt like, oh my gosh, I have finally overcame this. And now that okay, I could just catch a 2-hour flight to Florida and my vacation can begin. So freedom awaits you on the other side of fear. You just have to take action towards it. And I will be with you every step of the way. And if you have any other questions about flying, reach out to me. We'll talk more about it too. But I just wanted to give you a little quick episode on fear of flying and how you can overcome it. So, all right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you again for sticking around and supporting this. It means so much to me. Don't forget, I have the hotline that you can call into and ask any question or give me any topic idea that you are curious to hear about. You can call in, leave a voicemail. It'll be completely anonymous. You can also send me an email or you can submit questions through direct messages on TikTok, on Instagram, or Facebook. So, all right, until next week, I will be rooting for you, and remember to keep burning ash to dusk, because every single day that sun rises, we have a new beginning, a new opportunity. And guess what? That final sunset is coming for us, and it might be sooner for some than others. And I know that that is so deep. I know that that is, but it's the reality. You get this life, so make the best of it. You've got this. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you again soon.